Okay, the last video was about the inner cab corners and doing rust repair. This video is all about prepping the panels and then the actual install. So, stay tuned. It's an exciting moment. This is the very first test fit of the back panel, and overall it didn't go too bad. Not bad at all. It's almost like it was meant to be there. So you can see there's going to be a little bit of nip and tuck. I think things just need to be pulled out and into place, but a little hammer dolly work here and there for things I bent, but otherwise she's a beaut, Clark. Of course, I've got a long way to go before this gets welded on, but this is exciting. All right, keep on trucking. Literally. I'm going to do a lot of like body work today, like hammering out dents and hammering out like sheet metal surfaces that aren't quite flat. And then I'm going to start working on the back panel a little bit here. I need to take out some of the spot welds on the top, and I need to go around the whole thing, and then I plan on putting it back on the truck again for some test fitting and kind of marking off some areas that need to be fixed, things like that. So a lot of busy work today while I wait for my welding supplies to get in. So I've been kind of straightening up some of the bent pieces of metal. So there's some bent drip rails I've been fixing. Some of the body seams down here were a little bit out of whack, so I've been kind of hammer dollying them. So today the big thing is work on this. So I need to remove all the old spot welds, clean up all this metal, and get it into some sort of decent shape. Both cab corners are gone, of course. So I'm going to work on this so I can test fit it onto the truck and see what kind of adjustments I might need to make. So what I was doing was taking the cutting wheel and taking a bunch of these spot welds off. So this is what's remaining from when I pulled it off the donor truck. So I need to clean all this up, make it smooth, get all the rust off, clean up some of this, straighten up some of this metal. It'll fit in the truck a lot better for when I do the next test fit. Okay, I got as much off as I could. So I went all the way around the sides with this paint stripper, got all that going. So now I'm kind of going to go through here and straighten up some of the bent pieces of this. Okay, I got a whole bunch of those kinks out. It's all looking pretty good. I assume when I put this in for the final time, I might have to hammer form that back a little bit, but that's okay. This side is a totally different animal. So obviously I've got my rusty cab corners, and I've got a lot of seam sealant and rust to get off of this seam. Basically anything below, like, I don't know, about right here, you can't see in the truck. This one's pretty good. I don't have to go that high up with the cab corner, but this one has a pretty decent seam that maybe I will try to work out, actually, so I don't have to go up that high. I can just come down here and you'll never see that seam. I'm gonna have to think about that. And then here's all the side pieces. This is where it hooks up underneath the roof up there. And there's nothing here. This is where the headliner will go. So this is also where all the mice usually run back and forth in these trucks. No one ever gets to see this part of their truck. I've done a lot of grinding all over the place. Cleaned up all these edges, both sides. On the back sides of all the spot welds that I cut out, there's a little bit of a lip. So I had to grind that smooth. If I didn't take that off, it wouldn't sit flush. So we've got a same thing on this side. A little bit hard to get inside there. And then I've got the whole back surface where it's going to mate up to the lower cab. So I figure while I'm here, let me see if I can't fix this. If I can't fix it, I guess I just replace the whole panel, but it'd be nice to not have to go up that high, maybe just down here somewhere. Let me try. This is a lot easier than I thought it would be. I mean, it's not a super complicated one, but man, it's looking really good. Man, I just have a little bit of massaging left. That kink, it's probably hard to see, but it was a straight line down from being in a big scrape on the right side. I think it's on the door too. Alright, let me see if I can't finish this up. Ah, that came out pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but a thin coat. Maybe a little bit more playing with it. Bring this out just a little bit more. But yeah, I guess I won't have to patch that high. Now some new realities of putting a panel that wasn't originally on this vehicle are starting to show up, because you can tell that they did a little bit of body shaping when they put these things together. So it's pretty difficult for me to get this lip perfectly out. What I plan on doing is I can't actually get a spot weld up there. So I'm going to use that SEM panel sealant to glue these two pieces together and then spot weld everything else. But I think what I'm going to have to do is kind of create some shims with some welding, like to hold them out in position, because what's important is to get this line perfect, and then we come and work our way down and probably have to do a lot of hammer forming here all the way down to the bottom. So the top is going to be the most important for sure. The bottom is whatever it is. It hangs down a little bit past. I think that's totally normal. Well, it does already. It's about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 3/16. Then of course, the cab corners. So I'm going to have to stew on this a little bit, but from the inside, we can see that you really can't see down there. So any repairs I do down there, well, you probably can see right there. So I'm definitely going to want to do this on both sides. I have to think about it. Maybe not. Alright, onward. So I made some marks along the skin here. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pull some of the seam back so I can actually get more height and get everything to align up here, and then hammer form this back into position as I spot weld. Driver's side is really bad. It's really far off. You can see I can't get it up to match the roof line, so this is definitely going to have to be pulled out so I can smush that up. Also, there's I think a bit of a, still some weld and stuff in there I think I need to clear out. But again, I need to pull this back so I can get that up. Started pulling back a lot of the seam here, and I thought it would be pretty difficult, but it was actually really easy with a pair of pliers. You can see how easy this is. It's obviously easier with two hands, but if you just take your time, and what that's going to do is allow me to slide the door up more and then get this to be lined up. I'm probably going to have to do quite a bit of little forming right here, because to get it up higher, it'll change this contour. Yeah. Just keep whittling at it. There's a lot of little details to think about. It sounds so easy at first, slap it on, but it's not exactly like Legos. So I'm going to get the back as close as I can get it to where I think it would be ready to put on. I have no illusions that I'm going to have to probably take this panel on and off a few times, but I want to get it to a state where I feel it would be ready to install. And that means taking care of all the seam and get that all so I can move things around and anything else that might pop up. And then when it comes time to actually install this back, I'm going to have a series of tack welded stitches basically to hold it in position until it finishes drying. And there'll be a few strategic spot welds at the top just to hold it in place. And then after that sets, we'll start making our way down with the spot welds, probably having to hammer form everything as we go. The ouchie's looking pretty good. Not much there anymore. This door has the old corresponding scrape, so maybe I can pull something off like what I did on the side of the cab and fix this door skin. So I think there's definitely going to be some connection or seam issues here. It seems to be no matter what I do, I can't quite get this up to be perfectly in line with the cab right there. So I think I will have to do a little bit of hammer forming here to get that down in line. I'll lift it up the best I can, and then when it's on and setting, I can do some pounding and try to get that to jive up a little better. But I've already kind of peeled all this back so I can make as many adjustments as possible. But this is the worst side. The other side's not too bad. It almost lines up. If I fiddle with this, it gets pretty close. I can't do it one-handed, but it gets really close. It might not be much to do. So if I push this all the way up, there's just no way I can get these two to completely match up right here. So I got to come down about 1/8 of an inch. So what we're going to do is try to reshape this steel. I could probably do this when this is attached to the cab, but I'm trying to get a little head start on this here. Oh, it's so close. It's just a little bit more, really. Oh, it's so close. I've had to do quite a bit of hammering here to get this curve down to kind of meet this curve, and blew through a little bit to make some modifications. I guess I can weld that up I still need to weld that crack up. But let's see if it fits a little bit better now. Okay, it's hard for me to get this in position with one hand, but let's see if I can do this. It's a lot better than it used to be. So a little bit of shaping here. I think we're pretty close here. So I still need to clean up all this so I can prepare to make a bunch of little metal stitches for when I panel bond this stuff. I'm pretty sure that's old sound deadener. I guess that's one way to do it. Get that stuff out of here, and when this thing's all painted in 200 years, I'll put a piece of dynamite there. Much better. Bye-bye. I do believe I have this side completely prepped. All the edges are as clean as I can get them. In there a little bit, but I can't get in there very far, so that's what the rust reformer will be for. I tried to think of every tried to think of every spot that the media blaster or the painter won't be able to get to, so that's where I tackled. I figured the media blaster will have access to that, so I'm not going to deal with it. And then I marked with the cutting wheel each side where I'm comfortable of putting the patch at, so I can get rid of the bad metal. So I marked it here, and I took care of all the metal to give myself some good metal on this side, and I did it on that side. Okay, time to flip this over and prep the other side. Alright, this side is done. So the next step will be taping off for the weldable primer and the panel bond, then spraying everything else down with rust reformer and some paint. So before I do that, I basically need to clean up the cab section. So as much of the door wells as I can get to, anything that I don't think the media blaster is ever going to see and the primer is never going to make it to, I'm going to clean all that up next. I started taking off some paint on the roof up here. There's quite a bit of filler up here, so I guess these things were massaged a little bit, at least on this last paint job. I haven't seen any signs of it being the original color at all yet. That was kind of a pain in the butt. There's a lot of deeper stained style rust under there. So I didn't want to, go too deep. I think it'll hold. But that's an awkward position to be in. I almost forgot this whole inside channel, which I'll never be able to get access to again. It's got some heavier surface rust in there, but no cancer or anything. But I want to spray this too with some rust reformer and paint. I think the only thing that I could probably use to get in there is one of these guys. I don't know how much life it has left, but I'll start with getting the big stuff off first and get it as clean as I can. Yikers! Well, that didn't last very long, just like I kind of predicted. But holy smokes, it really does a good job of getting in there. And my conscience will not let me leave this rust in there. So I'm going to have to go pick up a few more of those guys because they really do a good job. I mean, this, focus, versus this. So I'd like to get under that lip there, but it's really not too possible. But I'm going to have to pick up a few more of those guys. It'll get this thing pretty good. pretty good. Alright, that's all nice and smoothed out. I also added a little extra bit of a lip underneath here because there wasn't really that much to attach the back panel to. One of my concerns was when I put the sealant or the body panel sealant on, that it was just going to smear all over the place up here while I tried to test fit it, but I think it's going to be alright. I'm right at the point where it's time to get it in. As long as those lips are below each other, I think it's going to be alright. I bought a bunch of these cheap little C-clamps from that one tool store we all go to for cheap tools. And I'm modifying them. I'm taking off the top little flat, and then I'm curving or grinding this down here. I grind it down a little bit here, and I grind it down a little bit back here. And that way it fits in the upper rail up there a little bit better. You can see how I had to cut it down a little bit to get it to fit a little bit better. I kind of think I might need a few more of these than I have, but we'll see how it goes. I think I've prepared as much as I possibly can for this. There's just no going around it. I'm going to have to do a little bit of tweaking once it's on there. Areas like this, I'm going to have to kind of pull out a little bit and kind of suck up a little bit. I've made these kind of little stitches that I'm going to spot weld on to hold things in place. So I guess it's time to take it off, do the final bit of rust removal, and get ready to get it on. Okay, I've wiped down all the surfaces with acetone. It's time to tape up all the spots that I want the panel sealant and the weldable primer to be, and then paint rust reformer over everything else, then paint on top of that. Getting really close here. Okay, the instructions say to let that sit for 24 hours before a top coat. I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I'll probably put a top coat on it tonight so I can do the panel tomorrow. Okay, now it's time to take off all the pieces of tape for the spots that I want the weldable primer on. Keep all the other spots for the panel bond. So this stuff is pretty expensive. That's why I don't like to use a lot of it. Okay, I'm gonna let everything cure overnight, but it's almost the big show. It's pretty cool that that primer was the same color as my paint. Look how shiny and new it looks. Yes. People will never see this part of the truck ever again. The idea is to paint anywhere I don't think the media blaster is going to get to, and any parts I need to weld. Well, as you can see, that was quite a bit of work to get that panel prepared for installation. This next part of the video is the installation, and it was a bit of a frantic 60 minutes. You're supposed to get about 90 minutes work time with this 3M panel bond, and I think I only got about 60 minutes before it started really setting up and I couldn't do anything anymore. So I was a little bit frantic that whole time. I had some fitment issues. Even though I tried this thing on about a dozen times, I still ran into problems. So here it is. I think the big day has arrived. The day I've been thinking about every single day for 8 months or so. And honestly, I'm a little bit nervous. It's a lot of work, a lot of preparation, a lot of money to get to this point. Just to have that big window. I could have gone the easy route and just bought a big window cab or bought a big window truck even, but people are asking too much money. There is an added benefit to taking that back panel off. You can access all the rust issues in there that you'd never be able to see with the panel on. But if I was to ever recommend this to anybody, I would say just buy the cab, because this is a lot of work. I've done everything I possibly can do Now I just have to do it. This is what you have to buy. This is the 3M08115 panel bond. And this is their expensive proprietary gun. $70, $45. And you get 2 tips, so 2 uses. I've moved the truck in here to get it out of the sun, so hopefully that'll kind of slow the curing down. We're already at 90 degrees, and it's the last day of March. Here goes nothing. I've got everything laid out, so it's ready to go as soon as I need it. I've got my panel bond, the gun, acetone and a rag to wipe off extra, a little mixing station. I've got my acid brushes to coat the panel bond. I've got my welder ready at the proper length. I've got all my vice grips laid out and C-clamps laid out, ready to go. And I can't forget these guys. My little stitches that I'm going to weld on to the upper lip to get everything nice and flush. Well, you probably couldn't tell, but I was pretty frantic for exactly 1 hour. That was how long I got to work with this stuff. It only lasted me about an hour. I was having a lot of issues on the right side getting fitment. It just was not jiving. There's a lot of pounded dents in right over here. So once this all sets up, I'm going to try to come back through here and smooth it out. Yeah, I was moving like a madman. This side came together really well, which is funny because this is the side that I had such a hard time with the first time. I barely had to do anything at all over here. So hopefully a little bit of body hammer and some Bondo and everything will look just fine. Well, that was quite an experience, and I'm pretty happy it's over. The next video is going to be all about finish welding the sides, doing the bottom of the panel, and actually putting the cab corners on. So that should be the last video about the back panel. Hallelujah. See you next time.